Monsanto, company headquarters in St. Louis, Missouri, heavily guarded like the maximum security wing of a prison. In the lab, scientists are hard at work on an ongoing series of new patents. The goal is worldwide domination in the field of food production. An annual sales volume of more than 4 billion euros is realized here, up until now primarily by means of genetically engineered plants and seed. Monsanto began by manufacturing insecticides and later went on to genetically engineer the plants themselves for greater resistance. This allowed the plants to better tolerate Monsanto's own crop sprays. Of primary importance was that everything could be patented.
When you insert a gene, the DNA can rearrange, can delete genes, turn them on permanently, turn them off, can create mutations up and down the genome, and these can create unpredicted allergies or toxins or new diseases or nutritional problems.
And in fact, Kirk Azevedo, a former Monsanto sales manager, recalls a discussion with a scientist working for the corporation on the subject of completely new protein patterns that appeared in a field test of genetically modified cotton.
He said, well, in looking at the mother or the parent product and looking at the other one, the genetically modified one, there's several different proteins, not just the one we want, but there's also a different spectrum of various lengths of protein in there too. And that concerned me. I, at the same time, was studying prion diseases, or like mad cow type disease. It is disease spread by proteins. So I said we should destroy all the seed that is being produced from these trials. And when I presented that, I said, oh no, we're not going to destroy the seed, we're going to feed it, like we traditionally do. And that's where I had a big problem. If we're going to feed that seed that has proteins that are just new, I mean, just brand new we don't know anything about, going into the food supply, what I got from Monsanto was, we're doing it everywhere else and we're going to do it here too. Well, Monsanto came, I think, to Arthur Anderson, and this is to look at how they want to position themselves. And they asked him, where do you want to be, Monsanto, in I think 20 or 30 years? And the answer was, we want to control the global food supply.
Bill Witherspoon, a former manager from the genetic engineering industry, witnessed the company's ambitious master plan, as presented by a management consultant at a conference in Miami.
The consultant believed that Monsanto would, through controlling intellectual property, patents, right, worldwide control, not have to worry about market share, because there would be no one else to compete against them. So part of the discussion was how to remove competition, because that's the only way that you're going to gain the kind of control that's necessary to dominate something as fundamental as the food chain. It wasn't about getting market share. It was about owning the whole thing.
In the United States and other countries, there are increasingly frequent reports of problems with genetic engineering. Harvests are failing, pests are returning, and allergies are multiplying. Monsanto has worked a new clause into its more recent contracts that forbids farmers from suing the company if genetically engineered seeds should fail. In some American states, farmers who feed their pigs exclusively with genetically modified corn or soy have noticed a mysterious drop in their stock's fertility. Environmental activist Jeffrey Smith suspects that there is a connection between Monsanto's attempt to make a large-scale entry into the pig breeding business and the alleged problems with genetically modified feed.
Hi, Jeffrey. Yeah, so I just got word from this person that knows someone that's raising heritage pigs in New York that they also had trouble giving birth when being fed certain varieties of genetically modified corn. And there's these people in Harlan, Iowa that talk about their pigs as a result and not getting pregnant as a result of eating genetically modified corn. So we've got a rather sophisticated puzzle here we have to figure out. So obviously I'm going to call them and I'll visit them in Iowa. That's nearby.
In the USA, pig breeders like Jerry Rosman have other problems. Environmental activist Jeffrey Smith wants to help them because Rosman has lost his entire operation. He thinks it has something to do with the feed. For years, he fed his animals only genetically modified corn.
The females, the pigs, ultimately we had three outcomes. They were either sterile, they were in the true false pseudo pregnancies, or they delivered a bag of water. And either way, there was zero output and 100% expenses going into these animals.
So what was the upshot of all these problems?
The end result here was that I could not incur the debt anymore. I couldn't pay back. We lost right at $1 million with this thing. I lost my farm and my livelihood.
The former pig farmer says that his attempts to have the genetically modified feed tested were blocked by massive opposition.
I was totally appalled at the treatment that I received from the USDA, the EPA, and the FDA at the national levels and at the state levels. Everyone tried to make this go under the floor. Their comments from the seed corn company was that we will ignore Jerry Rosman and eventually he will starve and go away and the problem will no longer exist.
Jeffrey Smith wants to get an impression of the situation at the farm of LELAND KAUFMANN, who recently had to give up breeding pigs. He now purchases his livestock from a large breeder.
So, cats cost $200 a run when they come out cold. We went on for years, couldn't figure out what our conception rate problem was. We worked with a veterinary, spent $1,000 here, $1,000 there. Nobody can figure out what was going on. And we just finally give up. For a few years, we were planting 100% BT corn. And, you know, we didn't put two and two together till you start comparing the hog records when we were having conception rate problems and go back on the tickets when we bought seed corn, what years we bought 100% BT corn. And then it all kind of coincided, fell into spot. We can't prove nothing, but it just very coincidental. I mean, when we quit, we were down to 30% conception rate. It was thousands of dollars. I mean, until you sat down and really put feed cost to everything. I never did do that because it never come to a lawsuit where it isn't worth the time and effort. We've lost enough money with the conception rate. We don't need to follow up and spend more money trying to figure out we lost. We lost thousands, there's no doubt.
Jeffrey Smith wants to know what the farmer believes is the impact of the whole thing on people, on consumers.
Nobody knows, you know, or they're not telling us, or they don't want to tell us. The big companies probably don't want to tell us, so now, who's the guinea pig now?
In the USA, environmental activist Jeffrey Smith has heard about another experiment. He therefore pays another visit to Jerry Rosman, the ruined pig farmer. Rosman is disappointed with himself and with the fact that he believed the promises of the genetically modified feed producers.
I tried to do the right thing. You know, I was one of the technology people. You know, I was right on the cutting edge of everything for the farm, you know, because this is what we were told to do. And ultimately, you know, they lied to us. We were told that these products were safe when we were handed them to us, and ultimately I found out that there's virtually no testing, and anyone that comes up with any kind of a problem whatsoever with it, there's absolutely no cooperation other than to bury them in paper and make them go away.
Now Rosman is doing the tests himself without outside help. He has been able to squirrel away some of the genetically modified corn which he is now occasionally feeding to a few cattle.
And these animals 4 years ago were sterile. We got them off of the corn, got them on green grass, and they were reproduced fine. This last winter I went ahead and started to experiment again and fed them the problematic corn here. And at the present time these three cows are barren and the bull is basically sterile. And that was after feeding the corn to them for approximately 90 days. And here next week we'll take them back off of the corn, and eventually the bull will come back to being viral, and the cows most likely will conceive a calf for next year. And this is what I've determined myself here with the limited funding that I can do myself.